It's January 27th. Happy Chinese New Year again. Uh, I've been talking with this elder of mine, and one of these elders of mine, he had me, being that I wasn't reading fast enough, obviously. I only got about the first 100 pages in and saw him again, and he was getting impatient. So he had me go to the epilogue. And so we'd have a little more to talk about. The epilogue, usually he's a great, kind gentleman. He really is, but he's a tough guy too. So I've said on earlier journals that I'm concerned about confronting him with what presenting to him. I don't confront. I don't like a confrontation, but presenting to him my experience. So I read the epilogue, and it was a convoluted mess, but I understood why it needed to be a convoluted mess by the author. It's just my interpretation because I understand what the guy's trying to do, and I respect what he's trying to do, and he's a great writer. In fact, I chuckled a little bit because I remember going through the phase of explanations and explanatory, explaining what's going on a few years back. And I tell you, his is very much, compared to mine, his is very much book worthy. Mine was not book worthy. But I went through that phase where I needed to explain. Um, and he does a good job. But it's a convoluted mess because I'll tell you why. I decided, okay, I need to know just what he means by intelligent design. So I went into the index and looked up intelligent design, and I found it that, I could tell a good author when at the middle, what happens at the middle of the book, and that's where he put it. He placed it just past the middle of the book. And that's fine with me. I have no argument whatsoever with what he perceives. And he does a good job, and it's nice. But it all stems around information. His whole deal has to do with information. And for me, I realized, well, information is knowledge. And that's mind-oriented. And as far as what he was going through, this is a great book to read if you don't really understand what's going on with genetics and DNA and physics as well, and what I would term creation myths. He calls origin science, the origin of the universe kind of thing. But as I was talking to my elder yesterday, he also he decided to expound a little bit more about what he knows about, and he brought up some people he'd met, and I looked them up, and on the internet I looked up the guy, and also what came up in the Google search was the Wikipedia article on deviance. Now, I'm not basing tremendous important works that have to be totally correct in every I being dotted and T being crossed. I'm just discovering this stuff as I go along. And I know that Wikipedia has its downfalls, its shortcomings, and its character flaws. There's nothing like a good old-fashioned tragic flaw of the hero to inspire greatness. Anyway, I'm going to study more. I've read it twice, and there's a lot there. There's more research I need to do on deviance, but there's some great ideas there that help elaborate to me the stance and posture of this elder. This elder was an administrator in the prison systems, and he's dedicated his whole life to public service. This is part of why I have this is so intriguing for me and important to me, is that he started out in the military, and so his whole life has been one of what I boil down to the militaristic mentality. And the militaristic mentality requires superiors and inferiors. It cannot exist without superiority and inferiority. And I realized in my experience that these categories of thought, these valuations of superiors and inferiors, are very dangerous ground. You have to be very careful when judging things as good and evil. And so through this serendipitous Google search, there's something to the logarithms to Google searches. It's pretty straightforward. I understand it, but I'm just glad that I have the information available to me, and I find the hints and the guides that will help me to relate to him on a deeper level. So I've also started Schopenhauer's World as Will and Representation, and I got a good warm up to it. I've seen a couple. John David Ebert on YouTube did a lecture on Nietzsche and the Birth of Tragedy, which I'm still trying to get. I haven't. The local bookshop, I thought for sure they might get it, but I tell you, when it comes to philosophy, the biggies, the rich ones, they're held on to. Those books are held on to. So I think I've definitely got to a different level in my studies. Because the world usually, in my life, the world usually presents to me the next step, the next guide. And it doesn't present the next one after that, the next step, until I integrate the previous step. So I'm just waiting, I'm being patient, and I'm doing my studies. But what it comes back down to is that with these superiors and inferiors, and knowledge and information, the militaristic mentality, as I call it, the military, they're not there to lose. They're there to win. So winning and losing has a great deal. Do you win the battle or do you lose the battle? And do you win the war or lose the war? That kind of thing. And so there's a definite a goal to be achieved. with that and information, knowledge, I also differentiate the knowledge between wisdom. Knowledge is fixed and set fast in time. So what we understand right here, right now, is what it is. And that will change, and it has always changed. Whereas, so it's fixed and set fast in time and space. It means what it means at a particular time, at a particular place. That's knowledge. Wisdom, however, is transcendent in that it always means the same thing everywhere. But in order to express wisdom, what is needed, what is required, is myth or metaphor and symbol. Myth speaks through metaphor and symbol, but it's metaphorical and symbolical. I would consider a sign, quote unquote, a sign, under knowledge. Anyway, you have to go past the superiors and inferiors, and this is exactly what my elder has yet to do. And I'm not surprised, because anybody who has been accomplished in space and time, in knowledgeable things that are required to make a decision and evaluation about as to whether it is good or bad, right or wrong, evildoer or righteous man, they don't go to the origins. Their origins, their creation myths, do not hold equanimity and balance. There is an imbalance that creates the rest of the world, the whole world. Everything in the world becomes one of two sides.